Ethan's hands gripped the controls of the forklift with practiced ease as he carefully aligned another pallet in the warehouse aisle. The afternoon buzzed with the familiar rhythm of activity, forklifts humming, machinery beeping, and the distant chatter of the crew winding down the day shift. He glanced at his phone. 4:52 p.m. exactly what he had hoped for. Just enough time to finish loading the last truck, pick up Leo from daycare by 5:35, and maybe swing by that little ice cream stand on Birch Avenue that his 5-year-old had been begging about all week. 10 years of marriage had taught Ethan that even these small routines could trigger a quiet sense of satisfaction. Carla would be home from her marketing job by 6. They'd have dinner together, maybe watch a movie after Leo went to bed. Simple, predictable, the steady life he'd worked so hard to build. His phone vibrated sharply, breaking his thoughts. Carla's name flashed on the screen, but the voice that answered was unrecognizable, high-pitched, frantic, breaking into sobs. "Ethan, oh God, Ethan, you need to get to the hospital now." The forklift stopped abruptly. "What, Carla, what's wrong? Are you hurt?" His words came fast, urgent. "It's Leo, he's okay, but the police, please come to Riverview Medical now." The line went dead before he could respond. Ethan froze for a moment, mind blank. Then a cold, methodical focus took over, the same precision that had made him a shift supervisor. He shut down the forklift, grabbed his keys, and shouted to his assistant manager as he bolted for the exit. The drive to Riverview Medical should have taken 15 minutes but felt like an eternity. His hands gripped the wheel tightly, cycling through every parental nightmare he could imagine. But Carla had said Leo was okay. Maybe just a minor injury, stitches, something frightening but manageable. He should have known better. In a decade of marriage, he had never heard Carla sound like that, not even when her father suffered a heart attack. This was different. This was panic. The sliding doors of the hospital burst open, and there they were. Carla sat slumped in a waiting room chair, flanked by 2 uniformed police officers and a woman in a sharp business suit. Her face was red and streaked with mascara, but she was unharmed. She gestured frantically as she spoke to one of the officers. Ethan's voice cut through the chaos. "Where's my son?" The woman in the suit, a social worker, approached with careful steps. "Mr. Graham, I'm Monica Alvarez from Child Protective Services," she said in a calm, professional tone. "Your son is safe. He's being examined by the nurses but is physically unharmed." Ethan's voice rose sharply. "Physically unharmed? What does that even mean?" Carla's hands trembled as she tried to reach for him. "Ethan, please, I can explain." "Ma'am, please remain seated," the senior officer interjected coldly, gesturing her back to the chair. "I'm Sergeant Ramirez. Your wife left your 5-year-old son unattended in a locked car for approximately 2.5 hours this afternoon. Neighbors discovered him crying and called 911. When officers arrived, the interior temperature was 95 degrees, and your child was dehydrated and distressed." The words hit Ethan like a punch. Impossible, Carla would never. "Mr. Graham, your wife has admitted to leaving the child in the car while she was inside a residence on Pine Street. She has been arrested for child endangerment," Sergeant Ramirez added matter-of-factly. Ethan turned toward Carla, finally seeing her clearly. Her blouse was rumpled, buttons crooked, hair messy, and a faint, unmistakable scent of cologne filled the air. Not his. "Whose house?" he asked quietly. Carla's face crumpled. "Ethan, please." "Whose house, Carla?" His tone hardened. The sergeant consulted his notes. "Nathan Cole, your wife reports they work together." The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Late nights, new attention to her appearance, secretive phone calls, hours of overtime, everything now made sense. Ethan pictured Leo, strapped in his car seat, frightened as the car grew hotter while his mother was elsewhere. He clenched his jaw. "I want to see my son," he said quietly. "Room 3, Monica Alvarez replied. "He should be fine, though the doctor wants to keep him for observation." Ethan stopped and looked back at Carla. She looked up with desperate hope. "I'm pressing charges," he said flatly. "Full prosecution." Her face went pale. "Ethan, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly." He turned to Sergeant Ramirez. "What's the next step?" "You'll need to provide a statement and retain a family attorney immediately," the sergeant advised. Ethan nodded and walked toward room 3, leaving the sound of Carla's sobs behind him. His marriage had ended the moment she made her choice. Now, his sole focus was ensuring Leo's safety. Inside the room, Leo sat up in the hospital bed, small and pale but alert. "Daddy, it got really hot in the car, but the police came and they gave me water," he explained matter-of-factly. Ethan pulled him close, feeling the warmth of his son against him. "I know, buddy. I'm so sorry that happened. Mommy made some bad choices, but Daddy's here now and you're safe." 2 hours later, Ethan sat in his truck outside the hospital, Leo asleep in his car seat. He dialed Carla's parents. Her father answered immediately. "Hello, Alan. It's Ethan," he said calmly. "Ethan, this must be a misunderstanding," Alan said, hopeful. "It's not a misunderstanding. Your daughter left my son locked in a car while she was with another man. She's lucky he's alive," Ethan replied coldly. "I'm filing for divorce and full custody. Supervised visitation only if she's lucky. Any interference from you or Margaret and you won't see Leo again." Silence stretched across the line. Ethan hung up and stared out at the parking lot. His life had been shattered, but tomorrow he would begin building a new one. Not the trusting man who answered Carla's call hours ago, but someone stronger, more protective, and ready to ensure Leo's safety at all costs. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of Leo calling for his mother. It had been the third time during the night, the nightmares typical after trauma. He found his son sitting up in bed, face pinched with confusion. "Where's Mommy, Daddy?" Leo asked, sleepy and worried. Ethan chose his words carefully. "Mommy's staying at Grandma and Grandpa's house for a while. Remember what we talked about. Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices and have to face the consequences." Leo nodded solemnly. "Is she coming back?" Ethan shook his head gently. "I don't know, buddy, but I'm here and I'm not going anywhere." After breakfast and a long discussion about daycare pickup procedures, Ethan drove to the offices of Harper and Associates, recommended by a friend during a messy divorce. The office was sleek and professional, radiating competence before the attorney even spoke. "Mr. Graham," said Patricia Harper, gesturing toward a chair. "Rick briefed me, but I need the full story from you." Ethan recounted everything methodically. The subtle changes in Carla over the past 3 months, the late nights, the obsessive attention to appearance, secretive phone calls, the harrowing hospital call, and the police report. Patricia took detailed notes, occasionally clarifying points. When Ethan finished, she leaned back with a satisfied, professional expression. "This is stronger than most cases I handle," she said. "Criminal charges change everything. Child endangerment in the context of an affair paints a very damning picture in family court." "What are my options?" Ethan asked. "Full custody for you, supervised visitation for your wife, at least initially. We can file emergency orders immediately before she has any chance to defend herself or hide assets," Patricia explained. She outlined a precise, aggressive strategy: emergency custody motions, temporary restraining orders, financial protections, and compiling evidence to demonstrate Carla's recklessness and poor judgment. Ethan thought about Leo alone in the locked car. "Good. How much will this cost?" "Retainer is $15,000, Patricia said. "Full trial could run $35,000 $40,000. Ethan nodded. He had the money carefully saved over 10 years. Ironically, Carla's betrayal would cost her everything they'd built together. "Do it," he said firmly. Patricia smiled, professional but sharp. "I'll file the emergency motions by the end of the day. Let's go over evidence." For the next 3 hours, they meticulously organized the case. Police reports, hospital records, neighbor statements, bank records showing Carla's secret spending, hotel charges, expensive shopping trips, proof of an affair and irresponsibility. Each item confirmed her deception, and Ethan studied it with an objective mind, focused entirely on protecting his son. Patricia also recommended a child psychologist to document any psychological impact on Leo. Dr. Sarah Vega specialized in custody cases and could provide professional testimony regarding what arrangement would be in Leo's best interests. Ethan picked up his son from daycare and drove to Dr. Vega's office. While Leo played, Dr. Vega spoke privately with Ethan. "He's showing signs of anxiety, difficulty sleeping, hypervigilance, normal trauma responses, but we want to address them early," she explained. "How long will this affect him?" Ethan asked. "That depends on stability in his home environment, consistent caregiving, and limiting exposure to the parent who caused the trauma until she demonstrates changed behavior." Ethan nodded, another professional opinion supporting full custody. That evening, after Leo was asleep, he sat at the kitchen table with Carla's belongings still scattered around. Tomorrow, he would deliver everything to her parents' house. Tonight, he had calls to make. He first called his brother, Mason, who listened without interruption. "Whatever you need, money, child care, or someone to confront Nathan Cole, just say the word." Next, Ethan called his parents in Oregon, who were shocked and worried. His father, a retired detective, expressed grim satisfaction that Ethan was taking the legal steps necessary. Finally, he informed his supervisor about needing emergency leave, which was approved immediately. By 11 p.m., Ethan had a clear view of his support network, legal strategy, and professional help for Leo. Carla, meanwhile, faced criminal charges and a parenthood stripped of authority. Ethan walked through his house with new eyes. It was no longer the home he had shared with his wife, but a fortress built for his son's protection. The emergency custody hearing was scheduled for a Thursday, 1 week after Carla's arrest. Ethan sat beside Patricia as Carla entered with her court-appointed attorney, a frazzled public defender named Robert Kim. Carla wore a conservative dress, pale and drawn, avoiding Ethan's gaze. Good. She should be afraid. Judge Reynolds, a stern and focused woman, reviewed the case file. "Mrs. Graham, you've been charged with child endangerment for leaving your 5-year-old son unattended in a locked vehicle for over 2 hours. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor, but I can explain," Carla began. "The time for explanations was before you endangered your child," the judge interrupted sharply. Patricia stood to present the emergency motions: sole legal and physical custody for Ethan, supervised visitation only, and a temporary restraining order preventing Carla from taking Leo anywhere without Ethan's written consent and court supervision. The police report establishes that Mrs. Graham prioritized her extramarital affair over her child's safety, resulting in criminal charges. We also have documentation from the child's therapist indicating trauma. Most importantly, her judgment regarding the child's welfare has been fundamentally compromised, Patricia explained. Judge Reynolds turned to Robert Kim, counselor. He rose, weakly arguing that Carla loved her son and that this was an isolated incident. The judge's cold response left no room for debate. The hearing lasted 45 minutes. By the end, Ethan had full custody. Carla's visitation was strictly supervised and restricted to court-approved facilities. She could make no educational, medical, or major life decisions for Leo until demonstrating sustained, responsible behavior. Outside the courthouse, Patricia handed Ethan a copy of the order. "Complete control until the divorce is finalized. Don't give her anything if she calls. She'll try to manipulate you with guilt and apologies. Remember, she destroyed her own life the moment she left Leo in that car." Patricia was right. Carla called that evening while Ethan read bedtime stories to Leo. "Ethan, please, we need to talk," she pleaded. "We have nothing to discuss. Communication regarding Leo goes through my attorney," Ethan said coldly. "I can't afford an attorney anymore," Carla protested. "My parents are stretched thin, please." "That's not my problem. You had 10 years to make good choices and you chose Nathan Cole," Ethan interrupted firmly. Supervised visitation starts Saturday, 10 a.m. to noon at the Family Services Center. Don't be late. He hung up and blocked her number, leaving the past behind. The criminal case proceeded independently. Prosecutor Jennifer Walsh was determined and angry. Child endangerment tied to an affair, she explained, was particularly egregious. The plea bargain allowed Carla to avoid jail but required public acknowledgement of guilt, community service, parenting classes, and probation with testing, further solidifying Ethan's custody position. 4 months later, the criminal hearing took place on a chilly Tuesday morning in February. Ethan sat in the gallery with Patricia, watching as Carla appeared before Judge Harper. Dressed in a borrowed black suit, hands trembling. The courtroom was nearly empty, just Ethan, Patricia, prosecutor Jennifer Walsh, Carla's public defender Robert Kim, and Carla's parents. A local reporter was present, drawn by the combination of adultery and child endangerment. Judge Harper reviewed the files with visible disapproval. Mrs. Graham, evidence shows you left your 5-year-old son locked in a vehicle for 2 hours and 37 minutes while engaging in an extramarital affair. Interior temperature reached 95 degrees. Neighbors called 911 after hearing him cry. He was dehydrated and distressed and could have died, the judge said gravely. Carla's attorney had prepared her to plead guilty. Guilty, Your Honor, she said, voice tense. Judge Harper nodded. You will serve 18 months of supervised probation, complete 200 hours of community service at a child advocacy center, attend mandatory parenting classes and anger management counseling, submit to random drug and alcohol testing, and pay all court costs and restitution. Let me be clear, this was not a mistake. You made a deliberate, calculated decision that put your child at risk for personal gain. Carla nodded, tearful, but the words hit home for Ethan. This was not about revenge, it was justice. The child survived because of the intervention of strangers, and Carla alone was responsible. Back in family court, Judge Reynolds finalized the divorce decree. Patricia had prepared an overwhelming case. The criminal conviction, Leo's therapy reports, documentation of Carla's financial irresponsibility and ongoing instability, and evidence of minor violations of the temporary orders. Carla's new attorney, a young legal aid lawyer, was clearly outmatched. Arguments for expanded visitation and shared custody were dismissed swiftly. Counselor Mrs. Graham was convicted this morning of child endangerment. What argument supports expanded access? The judge asked, tone laced with contempt. The ruling was decisive. Ethan received sole legal and physical custody of Leo. Carla's visitation remained supervised until she completed court-mandated counseling and demonstrated consistent behavioral change. She had no say over educational, medical, or major life decisions. The marital property settlement overwhelmingly favored Ethan. Ethan retained their 4-bedroom home where Leo had grown up, the primary vehicle and full control of the college fund. Carla's credit card debts from the affair period became her responsibility. She moved into a small studio apartment, worked part-time, and had supervised visitation twice a week. Her affair had cost her everything. Nathan Cole, the other man, faced consequences too. His marriage ended, career prospects damaged, and he relocated to another state. Ethan felt no pleasure in this, only satisfaction that choices had consequences. Character flaws revealed themselves inevitably. 2 months later, during a supervised visitation pickup, Ethan overheard Carla speaking to the court supervisor. I've completed parenting classes and therapy. Can we discuss expanding visitation? She asked hopefully. Not yet, the supervisor replied. Sustained behavioral change takes time. Typically, at least a year of consistent, responsible parenting is required. Ethan watched her face fall, then turned to Leo, who ran toward him, excitedly recounting the puzzle he had completed. His son thrived in the stability Ethan provided. Nightmares had stopped, separation anxiety diminished, sleep uninterrupted, laughter returned, and trust restored. That evening, helping Leo with homework at the kitchen table, he asked a simple but profound question. "Daddy, why does Mommy cry when I see her?" Ethan considered carefully. "Mommy's sad because she misses living with us. But sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt people they love, and they must live with the consequences." "Will she ever stop being sad?" Leo asked. "I don't know, buddy. That depends on whether she learns from her mistakes," Ethan answered honestly. Leo accepted it matter-of-factly, a child's innate clarity. "I'm glad you make good choices, Daddy," he said softly. The statement struck Ethan harder than any legal victory. Weeks turned into months. Supervised visits continued, Carla's access limited by compliance and professional assessment. Ethan and Leo's bond grew stronger every day, rooted in safety, trust, and consistency. The house was filled with laughter, bedtime stories, and routine. Financial security for Leo's future was intact, carefully managed by Ethan. On a warm Saturday afternoon, father and son went to the baseball stadium for their traditional father-son outing. Nachos, root beer, cheering for the home team. Leo wore his lucky cap, hopeful for a foul ball catch. "Dad," Leo said during the seventh-inning stretch, "remember when you promised you'd never leave me like Mommy did?" "I remember," Ethan replied firmly, looking at his son, now 9, confident, sunburned, and safe in his father's love. "You kept your promise," Leo said. "I always will, buddy," Ethan said, hand resting on Leo's shoulder as they watched the game together. They celebrated the home team's final run, but more importantly, Ethan celebrated the life he had safeguarded. On the way home, Leo asked eagerly, "Can we get ice cream?" "Absolutely," Ethan said, unlocking the truck. "Same place as always." "Same place as always," Leo confirmed enthusiastically, climbing into his booster seat. As Ethan drove toward the ice cream stand on Birch Avenue, the same spot where this ordeal had begun nearly 4 years earlier, he reflected on everything. His life had been broken, rebuilt stronger, harder, more protective. The love for his son, constant and unwavering, remained the foundation of the life he had fought to create. Justice had been served, Leo was safe, and Ethan had ensured the future he had always promised his child.